What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin today, BTC USD. Hit that like button, subscribe, and thank you all for being here. It is the 12th of April, and I feel like this month is moving by very fast. We are sitting here at about 71.1K with about 11 hours left in the day. Again, hit that like button. Thank you all for being here, and let's get into it. The other shoe has dropped. We've pumped and we've dumped, and again, that's just been the assumption overall that we would be pumping, dumping throughout this whole range until May or June. We got a little bit excited yesterday, and I did say it looked like we were going to push higher, but I also said that we would likely find resistance right here. How perfect would that be? If not below this high. I was very skeptical to say that we were going to go above this high. There were some signals that suggested that. I think I addressed that in yesterday's video. If not, I'm just thinking of my own personal analysis in my own free time. There were some signals that suggested that, but I had a really hard time getting past the idea that we get above this high, because if we get above this high, you guys, we're making our way up here towards this line, and I think this will be reserved more for May or June. These levels up here, these levels above this high will probably not happen in April, but in May or June. We've just been moving sideways. Every pump gets dumped into, every dump gets pumped into, and so on and so forth. We've pumped without any dumping over the past, like couple of weeks now. Time for the dump to come in, time for the other shoe to drop. And here, I want you guys to understand, we genuinely could, from 71.2K, we could be on a path for the rest of the month of April, working our way down to prices that are even below this low. And then still from there, work our way back up to prices that are above this high. And it might not be, I doubt that it's going to be this straightforward. It's going to be just as confusing as it has been this whole time. But fortunately enough, sentiment and media will help us with our guidance, right? Everybody seemed to be very bullish here, very optimistic about the Iranian peace talks that were going, and then as soon as JD Vance comes home and tells us that they didn't reach an agreement, and that Iran specifically would not give up the location of their enriched uranium, they wouldn't give that up, and that he didn't feel like there was any acknowledgement to the commitment of a long-term aversion to making nuclear weaponry. There was no agreement that was made, and that seems to be the primary thing that they want. The media likes to spin this, and this is not coming from a point of pro-Trump or not pro-Trump. Okay, like regardless of whatever you think about me, this isn't about that. This is just about the facts. The media likes to paint this as if Trump is a madman. He has no purpose in here. He just wants world domination. It's all about blah, 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 whatever. And yeah, the fact that most of the world is now coming to the United States for oil exports is pretty great, right? Like they're importing oil from the United States. It is pretty great. And that might have been a huge coincidence, or maybe it was part of the strategy all along. To really squeeze Iran and our competitors across the world. But beyond that, the main reason why we've gone to Iran, at least publicly stated by the president himself, the media says, we don't even know. We don't even know why we're in Iran. No, we know why we're in Iran. If you don't know, it's because you don't want to know. Or the reason's not good enough to you. It's because we don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. And there's a lot of people on the opposing side of Trump who genuinely believe that Iran having a nuclear weapon would make the world a safer place than what the United States is doing right now. People are deluded. And these are the same people, again, who say, we don't even know why we're there. We're there because they enriched, and when I say they, I mean Iran, enriched uranium levels past what the IAEA, the International Atomic, whatever, the agency of the world, like the WHO, the World Health Organization, but for atomic energy, Iran enriched uranium past the regulated guidance that they were supposed to. They literally were breaking international law by enriching their uranium to weapons grade levels. That's a fact. We know that for a fact. And likely it's enriched past what we even believe has been enriched to. That's just what we know, right? Like, have you guys ever caught somebody in a lie? The first time that you catch them in a lie, that's just what you know. There's other times that this has gone on, or there's further that these kind of transgressions have happened. Anyways, I'm not trying to get too much into this, but if anybody's like, he's just a madman, we don't even know why we're there, you're choosing not to know. It's very obvious why we're there, and the fact that JD comes home and says they would not agree that to stop pursuing nuclear weaponry, he did not get a confident affirmation of that. that just further reinstills that that's the primary thing. That's the primary thing. That's the one thing he was talking about there. That's the primary thing they care about. And I'm sure there's other things they care about too, right? They have a 15-point proposal that they want, and beyond all of the we're going to get into the TA. Beyond all the negative talk about how there wasn't an agreement made or any of that, JD also said that there was a lot of good talk going on. There was a lot of good back and forth. There was just the primary thing that the United States is concerned with, the nuclear weapons, was the one thing that they didn't seem to be getting a clear answer on. And that's what he said. It didn't sound like he was saying they're pushing back on this. They're not gonna agree to this. They don't want to. It sounded like he didn't get a clear answer, and that's not good enough for him. So the media likes to blow things out of proportion. Be aware of that. And because of that, because we are such emotional creatures and we listen to the media, we're going to panic and panic sell at the perfect time, at the absolute perfect time, and that might guide the price down. But we're really not doing anything, right? This whole Iran conflict, as far as Bitcoin's price action is concerned, it doesn't really matter. We've just moved sideways. We've just moved sideways. That's all it is. We're just moving sideways. Let's get into the short-term stuff, and then we'll zoom back out. I do want to see something real quick. Hold on. Just check this out. All right. Let's see. Let's get into the 1 hour time frame, and then we'll zoom out from there. 1 hour time frame, $70.9 thousand. It is Sunday, and you guys know how it is. Whenever we dump or pump on a Sunday, we typically go back the other direction on Monday. I think it's very important, just as it was a few days ago, whenever we had the Iran U.S. ceasefire announced. And we were saying, let's just wait and see. Let's wait this 2-week period out and see what's going on. Now that there's no agreement, when JD flew all the way to Islamabad for in Pakistan for these talks, and there was no agreement reached, let's just wait and see how things develop. There were good things. He said good things too. He didn't just say bad things. There were good things that were reported as well, not just bad things as far as the talks are concerned. But let's just wait and see how this develops. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we dump down a little bit more today, Sunday, and then next week we're moving back up. And there's other reasons for that too. We can get away from the media entirely and just talk brass tacks here. Let's go to BTC, Bitcoin futures. Bitcoin futures. Looking at this here, Bitcoin futures closed at 73.5K on Friday. CME futures did. If we open up tomorrow, Monday, if today this candle closes here in about 11 hours, if we close here or lower, we're going to have a gap up or a gap down technically. A gap to the upside. Does that gap have to be filled immediately? No. We still have a gap from back here, all the way back at about 84K. It's a bit of a bigger gap, It's like what they call a breakaway gap. Those gaps don't need to be filled immediately, but typically whenever you get these gaps, they do fill pretty quickly. We had a gap down here, and then we filled that over the coming days, right? This was on Friday, and then Monday, Tuesday, we went back up to fill that gap. We still went lower, and I do believe that as far as this move is concerned, we do have lower to go. I just wouldn't be surprised if over the coming week we pumped back up to around 73K or above 72K. We pumped back up enough to fill this gap that's going to form, right? Because right now Bitcoin's at 71K. That would imply then that the CME futures probably opens up here or lower somewhere in this area. We're going to have a gap here. I wouldn't be surprised if we came back up to fill that gap and then we came down. I wouldn't be surprised at all. So not financial advice, not a financial advisor. When people are panicking, which they are now, it's a good time to go long in this range. When people are overexcited for the bull market kicking back off and the bear market's over, it's a good time to go short, like yesterday and the day before. Looking at this on the 1 hour time frame, 1 hour time frame here, it's a pretty harsh candle down. It's decent volume too. Yeah, in my opinion, that is a breakout candle. And even though it's a breakout candle, you can still move back up here, get a lower high, find resistance at areas that you found resistance at before, and move lower, right? It doesn't have to be consistent downside the whole time, but stuff like this, what we're doing right now to open up the day, you got to understand, I'm just your average everyday American. I live in the heart of the country, in Colorado, right? Most people, if I'm awake right now, most people are starting to wake up. Most people, most of the degens who need to check the charts for their own sanity, they're starting to wake up too. And what they're waking up to is the price is dropping lower. Oh my God. It's going to cause a panic. It's going to cause capitulation. It's going to cause fear. But where are we? We're at prior areas of support. Yes, it makes sense that if we're forecasting we'll come back up and find resistance at prior areas of resistance, that we just might do the same thing on the support side, right? Again, this doesn't mean that I think we're going up here, and I've had doubts that we would even move above this high or even above this high for a long time, and we didn't move above this high, but we got very close. I've had doubts the whole way up that we would get above this high and that we would get above this high. But that doesn't mean that we can't move up a little bit higher from here and then move down. As we're moving lower here, volume's dying off. Initial breakout, no follow through with the volume. So yes, likely we get a little bit of a retracement, as it's known, a retracement. And from a high to a, let's assume this is the low. It might be the low. And obviously it's not the low. We're probably going to go lower. We can expect to see prices around 72K at least, but likely something I would guess around 72.6 to 72.9K right here, maybe even as high as 73.5K to 73.1K, something up here. And that likely all happens over the coming days. That likely all happens Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, somewhere in that time frame. I would expect that we do move back up. This might even be getting set up for some type of like a BART-like maneuver, depending on how things play out for today. And then we still move back down. I don't know if I believe that happens, but throughout this range, we really have had low volume, very, very low volume, with just sudden shifts in volume to push to guide the price in certain directions. We look at this here. The RSI is bearish. Yes, yes, yes. Very bearish. We just closed out a 1 hour, so there's no bullish divergence. Bullish divergence on the MACD, and the stochastics are oversold as well. The thing about the stochastics, and this is not a guarantee, this is not a rule, okay? You could be oversold forever if you want to. But if you look here, I mean, how long do these stints in the oversold zone last? I mean, here it's just a blip, a little blip. Here it's a little bit more. Here it's a little blip, blip. Here, let's call it a little bit more, like consistently getting oversold like this. You got a little blip, blip there, like that. Blip, blip. And we've been oversold now for a pretty solid amount of time. Now, we could be oversold still for a longer time, but likely our time in the oversold zone before going overbought is short-lived. We're probably going to get overbought, and it's Sunday. That means tomorrow, Monday, we might be moving up. By the end of today, Sunday, we might be moving up. It makes sense that we're not going to be here forever. It's not that we can't be. We could be down here forever, but just look out in comparison how we don't typically stay oversold this long, at least on the 1 hour. It's just the 1 hour. It's not that significant. So again, to reinforce this idea, assuming that this is our relative low, from which we will build lower lows, but just the relative low here, maybe we only move up to 72K, and then we move down. That could happen. That's very possible. But I think that we'll go to 72.6 to 73.5, somewhere in this area. I really do. Why? Because in this area is where you have prior resistance here and prior resistance here. It's literally, if I take away the bubble, you can clearly see it's literally the same range. Resistance to resistance. It's your resistance zone. Golden ratio to the 886. It's perfect. It's perfect. It's exactly as it should be. Let's see. Let's get into the 4 hour time frame, right? We've already done the 1 hour. 4 hour time frame. Now the RSI here was showing a lot of resilience, man. This is a very strong RSI. Unfortunately, that you were showing a lot of strength, but your volume was dying off as you were moving higher. Your volume was dying off as you were moving higher. You had ample opportunities to do something good, and you just didn't do it. So we broke down, and volume actually started to build as we're moving down, which is not good. The stochastics are in the oversold zone, which they've reset themselves. Again, I think that we can come up. The RSI, I doubt from here just goes straight down to the oversold zone. It's not that it can't do that. We've done that before, but you know, typically, and we've done that here before too, but typically, actually here we also did that. I mean, maybe we do just go right down to the oversold zone. Typically, there is a little bit of meandering. There's a little bit of meandering before you actually get oversold. The same thing to the upside. Typically, there's some meandering before you actually get overbought. But these last few examples weren't really good, were they? These are a bit more aggressive. I don't know if we see that here, though. And again, the reason why I think that's a safe assumption that we don't see these aggressive dumps is we had a very, very bullish instance here in the RSI. And the stochastics are already oversold. You know, this is here whenever you got oversold in the RSI, the stochastics were oversold. Where here we're already there. Maybe we go a little bit lower. Maybe we do drop down to about 70.5K, but I doubt we go too much lower than that, at least today. At least today's Sunday. Maybe over the coming week we do see lower prices, if not the following week by the end of the month, but that's the idea. At this rate, I'm expecting we do see an end-of-month dump, not an end-of-month pump. The MACD is building bearish momentum. We had a false cross here, and that provided well for the price. We had a false cross here, but then we had a false green cross, and we had a false red cross, false green cross, and now it looks like we've chosen a side. The oscillators in these kind of environments typically do like to come to the zero. If we find support there, cool, we can get bullish. If we cross through, well, then we're bearish, aren't we? As of right now, I would take the bearish approach down to the zero, and we'll see how it goes whenever we get there. Again, my friends, from here, we don't have to go below this low. Earlier, I was just saying we could, and we could still come back up and go above these highs even. But this might be the extent of the drop. We might just go to 70.3K, 69.2K, somewhere in here, and then we're off to the races. Maybe I'm wrong, and we actually see a pump going into the end of April. I don't expect that right now. I think this is the end of the move, and I think that we will probably slowly work our way back down to this like golden ratio zone, or even down to the 786, 886 area, and potentially even lower than that, right? But time will tell. We were making our slow move up. Now we're making our slow move down. We're really just doing the same thing we've been doing, guys, since February. We're just moving sideways. That's my expectation. The MACD is bearish. The stochastics are bearish. The RSI has broken out of its bullish trend, bearish, starting a new trend, likely from here working its way to the oversold zone. Probably not all at once. We'll come up, we'll work our way down, and it will probably be sometime late next week, if not the following week, that we are oversold and seeing the low ends of this move down. 1 second, my friends. Okay. Whew. I had to cough and spit. I didn't want to do that on camera. Let's see. Let's see here. Daily time frame. That's what we're on now. That is what we're on now. Okay. So the daily MACD, man. This is weird. It's like it is bullish. It is a bullish MACD. Why is it bullish? Because we've rejected here, came down. It was like a false rejection. Now we're breaking through. We're actually breaking through. But we're starting to die off in our bullish momentum right when we're supposed to really get the separation. Like here, we got this separation. We're not seeing it. And I think the MACD, the reason why it's less reliable right now is because we're in this choppy sideways environment. So, I mean, that kind of makes sense, honestly. The stochastics are coming out of the overbought zone. Yeah, coming out of the overbought zone. The blue line is a bit far away from the orange line right now. This gives me a little bit of confidence, again, that we're probably not just going to plummet from here. We're going to see a little bit of a pullback and slowly work our way down. The RSI finding resistance here, the same area it found resistance before. Even the same area that we found resistance before here. Just, it makes sense. We're not getting overbought, right? We're in a bear market, so of course we're not going to be getting overbought easily with the RSI. But the MACD, the stochastics, and the RSI, they're all at points to reject. We're at a point to quote-unquote reset, and it makes sense. We don't need the indicators to tell us that. We look at the price action. We look at this little range that we're in, and we were on the upper ends of this range. We were literally up here where we found resistance before. Come down. Come down. And maybe it's slanted up like this. Maybe it's overall, it should be regarded as like a horizontal range. And again, we really could go below these lows. Maybe we don't. We still hold higher lows, whatever the case may be. But I don't think that we're breaking out to the upside. I don't think that we're breaking out to the downside anytime soon. I think we're just moving sideways. The bullish shoe has dropped, and now the bearish shoe is dropping, and then so on and so forth until May. We'll probably get above this high, and once we're above this high but below this low, somewhere in that range there, probably very close to 80K but just below it, something right around here, that'll be the point at which we really start to work our way down. And who knows, guys, it could be July before we actually break out of this range. It could be like mid-July, late July, but I'm assuming we'll get a either sell in late May or sell in June scenario where we're at the top end of this range overall. And then we'll finally move down. And I've been saying this since this day here. Hit that like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.